Hey, before we get started, I just wanted you to know I appreciate all your support with everything that I've done. It's kind of taken on a life of its own now, and it's big and it's fun and it's exciting. But there was a time when I was kind of just a little unknown guy trying to make some noise in the world, and there were like people that kind of came in strong at a few junctions to just offer support and enthusiasm that really meant a lot to me. And you were one of them. So thank you.
Welcome to the Gentleman Success, Happiness, and Fulfillment Talk podcast, where we bring to you the most successful, happy, fulfilled gentlemen from around the world who have been able to conquer themselves, their life, their marriage, and their businesses. You will be learning from four-dimensional gentlemen who have cracked the code to the science of having it all. The question is, how can married entrepreneurs with kids become gentlemen, achieve true freedom, and build a successful, happy, and fulfilled life, marriage, and business? This show will give you the answer for that. My name is Alex Ramirez, and I'm your host, and you're welcome to the Gentleman Success, Happiness, Fulfillment Talk podcast.
Said when people frustrate you, it's really useful to ask yourself, what choice did they think they had? And people are doing things you don't like, but usually people are doing their best, and they're doing it within the limited set of options that they know they have at the time, or that they feel confident or capable of taking. And, if you look at every single person is basically doing their best all the time based on what options they think they have at any given time. Like, we're really all the same.
Yeah. We do our best with the info that we have, right? So yeah, man, I totally
get it. And what we believe we're capable of. And sadly, a lot of people in this world don't believe they're capable of nearly what they are. But that's only because they've had a lot of feedback and experiences to create that belief.
Belief and balls.
Yeah. And my job, I look at my job as just to give them different feedback and different experiences to tell them that they're capable of more than maybe other people have. So
100%, man. Your job is to tell people to believe, to give people a little bit of the belief that you have in yourself to them. That's what I've noticed.
Yeah. They can borrow it. They can borrow it interest-free until they are ready to create it for themselves.
Something funny, man. You want to know, like, I started this podcast about 4 months ago, maybe.
Yeah.
And I'm into my 22 episode. I actually just got on a podcast with Jeff Fenster. He was on your show.
Yeah, of course. Great. Congrats,
After
man.
you, I'm getting on Brad Give, and then just like very high level, man. And the only thing that was keeping me from starting my podcast?
Just like fear, insecurity, doubt, hesitation. I mean, probably no actual obstacles.
Yeah, just belief. Belief.
Yeah, totally. Same deal, dude. I started one 2 years ago, and everybody told me, there's already a million podcasts. Like, it's hard. So if you believe what most people say, you'll get the life that most people live.
Mm-hmm. And, this podcast was inspired by a podcast called Millionaire Secrets, right? Which the purpose for that is to give entrepreneurs the tool sets, the skill sets, the tactics, the strategies, and everything for them to become a millionaire. Well, this podcast is to motivate, inspire, and bless men so that they can become what I call a modern gentleman, right? Which is,
I love it,
a man committed to achieving true freedom. And there's 4 freedoms that I talk about: physical freedom, emotional freedom, sentimental freedom, husband and father, and financial freedom, right? So the purpose for this podcast is to get men who have conquered themselves, their life, their marriage, and their business, so that we can give the tool sets, the skill sets, the strategies, and the tactics to other men who are at an earlier stage of their journey, so that they can as well be able to conquer themselves, their life, their marriage, and their business, and have it all.
I love it, man. Well, congratulations on kicking this off. And hey, before we get started, I just wanted you to know I appreciate all your support with everything that I've done. It's kind of taken on a life of its own now, and it's big and it's fun and it's exciting. But there was a time when I was kind of just a little unknown guy trying to make some noise in the world, and there were like people that kind of came in strong at a few junctions to just offer support and enthusiasm that really meant a lot to me. And you were one of them. So thank you.
Since the beginning, man.
Yeah. Yeah, you've been there for a while, as long as I can remember in this whole journey. Like you've been watching me go hard, and hopefully I'm blazing a trail to show people, like, if you'll go hard and you'll it's like it's like running a sprint and a marathon at the same time, sprinting a marathon, but you can do it, and anybody can. I was just some 40-year-old dad in Utah a couple of years ago, and now I got a book deadline this weekend for a book deal that's going to be in 2,000 airport bookstores next spring.
Awesome, man. Congratulations on that, man.
Thank you. But I'm just saying, man, I really appreciate your support at a time when it wasn't as plentiful as it is now.
I'm trying to be what you were to me, right? Like, I know that you did it with like, oh, I'm going to be this for Alex, right? But like, man, like seeing you, like, in a 2-year period, go from like, shit, you're getting 5 comments on your videos and 3 of them are like, shut the hell,
Yeah.
Right. To like right now, like you said, building something that has a life of its own. It's been amazing. Right. And like you said right now at the beginning of this call, like, don't believe the hype. Like, I'm just a guy just like you, and I can do it as well.
Yeah, you can, man. And I love your concept. The modern gentleman, I have a mastermind group, and one of the guys in there has something that he's putting together called the Knight's Path. And he's former law enforcement. So he's real tough, and he's trained fighter, but he's also like very refined, a real gentleman. He's an artist, plays the flute, writes poetry. So he's real kind of modern, almost kind of a Renaissance man. But he's kind of creating this, what he calls a modern day knighthood, where it's like chivalry and respect, but also like strength and virility as a man. And it kind of the same vibe, like the modern evolved man. And I think that's a conversation that really needs to be had, because honestly, men get their ass kicked in the world we're in,
They do, man. They do. Yeah. I mean, I've had it, right? Man, I've heard your stories dozens of times, and I want to tell you mine, man.
Please.
Awesome. So,
let me know when we have official, like however you want to kick this off. Like, I don't know if you add an intro on later, or, I just want to follow your format here.
So I had a format, but, I guess everything that we've said is valuable. So let's get started, right?
Sure. Cool.
So man, modern gentleman, right? 21 years old, helping married entrepreneurs with kids grow their businesses without sacrificing time, health, and family. Like, who am I to do that, right? And then like, why am I even doing this? And the reason that I'm doing this, man, is because I come from like a generational. I'm Mexican, by the way. I don't know if you can like listen to it on my accent. 3 years ago, man, and this is just like, diving off from what I'm actually going to say. 3 years ago, I didn't know how to speak English. So this is how hard I've been going into my self-development and like investing in myself. 3 years ago, I was literally sitting in my dorm trying to make a video, shaking and like sweating because I couldn't speak more than 3 words without choking. So, okay. I come from this generations of like mediocrity and poverty and drug addiction and alcoholism and broken families, right? To give you an example, my dad, he was a drug addict and alcoholic for like 25 years, for the major part of his life. And he has like 8 or more different kids with 7 different women. So like 8 or more different broken families. He abandoned me and my mother when I was like less than 1 year old. And he was a drug addict, alcoholic, broken families. And this has been going on for generations and generations. His dad abandoned him. He was a drug addict and alcoholic, his dad's dad. And this has been going on, right? And I'm putting an end to it. And when I was 14, my dad, right after having, fucked up the major part of his life, he gave me some advice, right? So like all of those years, not doing the right things made him learn something. And when I was 14, and he told me, if you want to be successful, happy, and fulfilled, this is what SHF stands for. If you want to be successful, happy, and fulfilled, and he said it in Spanish, you have to become a gentleman. He didn't say it modern gentleman. Like, this is something I am adding. You have to become a gentleman. And the way you do that is by achieving true freedom, he said, right? And I was 14. I didn't listen to him, right? And he said, and there's 4 freedoms. There's physical freedom. You got to learn how to like take care of yourself and love yourself and optimize your body and mind with excellence so that you can perform at a high level, right? And that is the first one you have to, he didn't say it that way. He just said, take care of yourself and love yourself. That's the first one you have to focus on, yourself, right? The second one you have to focus on is emotional freedom and mastering yourself and figuring out who you are and like what your purpose is and like, having control of your emotions and all of that. Once you have those two, you have self-mastery and it becomes really simple and easy to achieve financial freedom, right? Because you have self-mastery, you have physical freedom, emotional freedom. So now financially becomes very simple, relatively simple. So now you've spent the last 10 years of your life, building this three. Now you're really young, 30, 35, 40, it's even young still. So now you're missing one piece to have it all, right? But now once you have it all, you can give yourself the opportunity to go out there, look for the woman that you're going to spend the rest of your life with, build a family with, and keep on growing your empire with. And that's sentimental freedom, being the most powerful, respectful, humble, intelligent, and wise as a husband and father, right? And that's the way you become a gentleman. That's the way you achieve true freedom in that order, right? But what happens is that most men fuck up. Most men do everything backwards, right? So I've always been I've always had this entrepreneurial spirit. 12, 13, I live I used to live in a border town, like with Mexico and the US, Nogales, Arizona, and Nogales, Sonora. And I lived in Mexico, but went to school in the US. I would cross back and forth every single day. And I used to sell chips and candy at my school in the US, right? That I buy from Mexico. So that was 12 and 13. And then 14 and 15, I was selling Chinese products that I didn't know about Shopify, man. If I had it, it would be another story. And then at 16, I sold cars, right? I bought cars in auctions in Tucson and Phoenix, Arizona. I brought them back to Mexico, fixed them really cheap, brought them back and sold them, right? But then from 14, I started doing drugs, started drinking at 14, like in Mexico, border town, like you have everything is available. And then from 16, I went really hard into that, right? Into drugs and alcohol and partying and girls. And I just got lost, right? So from 16 to 18, man, I was a drug addict, did all kinds of drugs. I was an alcoholic. I didn't have any mission. I didn't have a purpose. I didn't have goals, nothing, man. I was totally lost. So I was going down the same path as my dad. At 18, I got my girlfriend pregnant, going the same freaking path as my dad, right? I got my girlfriend pregnant and I was really scared. Like, what do I do, right? Because I grew up hearing stories. My mom had me at 15, and growing up, she told me this story that if you have a kid at a young age, you're going to be a fuck up. You're not going to amount to anything great. You're going to fail and you're not going to do anything with your life, right? She told me that story because that's what happened for her, right? It's a true story for her, right? Not for me, but I believed it because she's my mom. I'm her kid. She's big. I'm small. She knows I don't, right? I'm stupid. So I believed it. At 18, I got my girlfriend pregnant. Like I said, I was filled with, I don't even know how to describe it, but I didn't have a relationship with any of my family members to feel like I could go and ask for help. And we decided to go with abortion, man. All right. We Googled it and everything. Long story short, my wife ended up taking like 40 some pills. That's, like abortion pills that we bought at the pharmacy in Mexico. And on Google, it said that she was going to be in pain and she was going to bleed everything out. And that meant it had worked. So that happened. She took the pills, like 40 some pills. She was in pain. She bled. So it worked, man. But look, it didn't work, man. 1 month went by. She got her period. I don't know why, but she got her period. And we were like, oh, all right, cool. It worked. You're not pregnant anymore. Another month went by and she didn't get her period. And we were like, holy shit, like what's happening? Like we just went through an abortion. You're pregnant again. So we did it again, man. We did the same procedure again. She took more pills. She was in pain. She bled everything out again. So, okay, it worked. Another month went by. We graduated from high school. She didn't look pregnant. She was wearing a tight dress in our prom and all of that. She didn't feel pregnant. She didn't look pregnant. Nobody knew that she was pregnant. We didn't even know that she was pregnant because we thought the abortion procedure had worked. Long story short, we graduated. And then from 1 week to another, I went from being that drug addict, alcoholic, teenager with no goals, nothing, right? Following the same steps as my father, following the same generational cycles of mediocrity. And I became the father of a premature baby that was born at 5.5 months of gestation, not 9 or 8 or 7 or 6, 5.5, man. Right. And that completely shattered my world. Like at the time, it was the worst thing that ever happened to me. And now it turned out to be the best. It turned out to be my purpose. turned out to be, oh, fuck, let me not get emotional. Wait.
So you already made me emotional. I don't know if you can tell, but that's a crazy story, man.
Okay. So yeah, man. Okay. So, that's what happened, man. And, I'm sure like, wait, um, and, yeah, I started in insurance, did digital marketing, to generate my own leads. People were like, the average insurance agent was asking like, how the hell are you doing? You're generating your own leads.
Right.
And then, and then, and then I started a digital marketing agency, to help insurance agencies generate leads, because it was easier to sell an $8,000 3-month contract to an agency owner than to sell a $50 per month policy to a person.
Yeah.
So I started my digital marketing agency. I did it for like a year. It was good. And then a couple of months, like 8 months ago, based on like key people that have come into my life who have gave me the guts to like step into my purpose, I decided to go all in into this. And this is what I want to do. This is what I feel really passionate about. And this is what I'm doing, man.
That's such a cool story. How old are you now?
21, man. So it's been 3 years.
3 years. I mean, that's incredible. So 3 years ago is when I started putting out content for what I'm doing. So I know how fast that's gone by. And when I started that, you were coming off of drugs, just had a premature baby. I mean, am I telling the story right?
Yeah.
And here you are. That's incredible, man. That is incredible. I'm so, I don't even know what words. I don't want to say I'm proud of you. That sounds like paternal and weird, but like, it's just beautiful, dude. It's inspiring.
And,
you get, do you have people in your life? Because, I was telling you about how much, the support with what I'm doing. There've been a few people that kind of early on, they saw what I was doing and they gave me some really critical support when it wasn't easy as I was trying. It was not as easy at that time as I was trying to make it look. I was trying to make it look like I was tough and I was unflappable, but it's hard, right? When you're starting out. And I know how valuable that support is. Do you have anybody in your life consistently validating you and telling you how incredible you are?
My dad, man.
Good. Better late than never, but that's amazing, man. Good. You got to have that because you are. I don't know. Maybe you've got enough other people telling it to you, but hear it from me, dude. That's an incredible story. You're an incredible person. And my Lord, to be so young, the amount that you're going to do.
I'm excited, man. So like the way my dad describes me is that I'm his time machine, right? So like going back to the time in which he fucked up, he had his first kid, like when he was like 18 as well. Mm-hmm. But then that's when everything went on a downward spiral, right? So instead of going on a downward spiral, like it's going upwards for me. Yeah. So like he describes me as the time machine. And like I've like, this is like the 22nd interview with like really, really high level man that I tell this story to. And all of them have told me like that they're excited for me. They've all congratulate me and like, I'm starting to believe him. And so,
yeah. Good, man. Well, I look forward to staying in touch and watching the story unfold.
Awesome, man. So now, let me do my, let's see, what time is it? Well, let's just keep on.
Just so you know, I'm actually good. We don't have to use it, but I'm actually good until 2:15 my time. So 2:15. Yeah, I mean, we've got time, whatever you want to do.
Awesome, man. Thank you very much.
Of course.
All right. So let's see. Well, man, let me ask you a question. Well, let me just like, let's get started and ask you a question, man. So how do you go from like starting a company from scratch to like what we talked about right now, right? Doing a live video on Instagram and having 5 views and then 4 of them telling you to like, so how do you go from that
to go F myself is what they would say. Yes.
Starting a company from scratch to 3 years later, a couple of weeks ago, I think, winning the $100 million award for ClickFunnels, man. Like, how do you do that?
Well, for starters, you just do it. I mean, I know that's a cliche. That's a Nike slogan, but my Lord, the amount of time that people waste hemming and hawing and equivocating and doubting and hesitating is, I mean, you could live 10 lifetimes in the amount of time that most people spend scared to live one. But I just, it's a convergence of factors. I mean, look, this isn't my first rodeo. This isn't the first business I've started. This isn't the first time I've bet on myself. This isn't the first time I've had what I thought was the right idea at the right time to try to catch a wave. It's just, a lot of people are very binary in the way that they think. And I get it, because fear, the subconscious mind tells you, if you tried something and it didn't work, don't do it again. Like the subconscious is like, don't be an idiot. You already failed once. What, you're going to try again? I mean, now it's like, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. That's a saying, right? But it's your subconscious says the same thing to you. It's like, oh, you tried once. Okay, fine, whatever. But if you try twice and you fail again, shame on you for not learning the lesson, right? And so people take one risk, it doesn't go the way they planned, and they don't take risks anymore. And, for some reason, I've never really been scared to take risks, because I've always had a sense that ending up full of regret was the greatest risk. That would be the greatest failure. If I finish my life and I regret the shots I didn't take, the changes I didn't make, that will be the ultimate failure. And so no amount of risking and failing along the way could ever be greater than the failure of not taking the chances. And that's just how I've always looked at life. And so, in this case, 3 years ago, and for your audience who may not know, Alex, you're, one of the earliest people that I remember actually really kind of resonating with my content and giving me positive support. And I used to get 3 comments on a video, and 2 of them were people saying like, who the hell are you? Get off of my feed. And then one of them might've been you saying, hey man, I really like your content. Right. And it started really small, and nobody at the time when I started, they didn't know what I was doing. Right. It was like, why is this guy so excited? And why does this guy keep going live? And why does this guy keep putting out all this content? But what I recognized was that I felt like the world, and it was a good timing for me too. I had just sold a business. I had some money, I had some time, and I recognized, I felt like the world was kind of, and obviously I had no idea COVID was going to happen, but I kind of felt the energy in the air of like, hey, something's happening, right? The world has this really massive pent up frustration and psychological helplessness and like a potential energy for a shift, because we've just been going in this way now there've been a couple decade cycles. You had the .com boom and bust around the turn of the millennium. Then you had the 2007, the real estate bubble, and then it popped, and the derivatives, and the Great Recession in 2008. And then we had the big run up again for 10 more years. And you can just see the world is getting really, really like volatile. Mm-hmm. And I felt like some sort of a psychological correction is coming. And what the message that people need right now is empowerment, self-determination, return to high quality core values, standards around excellence, and what humans are capable of. I felt like existentially that was the conversation the world needed to be having. And ultimately, and I just was telling this story. I was filling out a form for an interview that I'm doing on BuzzFeed, and I was just telling this story. So it's top of mind, but I had some really early experiences in my life that showed when people are dependent, they are so easy to control. And I mean, that goes without saying, right? Like you can control people when they can't take care of themselves. And so I just felt like, okay, I need to get out there and I need to start speaking this message. First of all, the mindset, and then secondly, the skill set of how a person in the modern world can actually take care of themselves. First of all, you have to get psychologically free of all the crap that tells you that you can't, and that you need the system, and you need the government, or you need the big employer, or you need the expensive college degree that maybe you can't afford and you're going to put yourself into mountains of debt trying to acquire, or you need this or you need that. When the reality is, in the modern world, in the digital economy, what you need is between your two ears and attached to your wrists. It's your hands and your brain, and maybe a phone and a laptop, and you can be okay. And if we can start to set people free financially, then we're setting people free psychologically, and we can have a world where people aren't being coerced and morally compromised. And we see, look at the world right now. Look at the number of people, and I'm not taking a political position, but look at how many people right now are relinquishing their physical bodily autonomy to take a drug that they don't want to take, but because they don't want to lose their job.
It's crazy, man.
I'm not even taking I mean, I have a position, but I'm not one to make a big deal about my opinion about it. But I will absolutely make a big deal about civil liberties and inalienable rights. And people are so easy to compromise when they're financially dependent. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, I that was really what I was after, was trying to spark people to say, enough, I'm gonna take control of my own life. And I know that some of that means financial autonomy, and there's some skills that I can learn that'll increase my value dramatically in the world. And that's what I was doing. So you ask how I blew up this company so quickly. You know, look, I had the right message at the right time, and it was building a lot of momentum. And then all of a sudden COVID happened, and it sent around the world. I mean, it sent hundreds of millions of people home to go online and try to figure out what to do with their lives, because they didn't know if they were going to have a job in a year. And we're an entrepreneurial education company that uses a virtual platform to teach entrepreneurs all over the world. And we had the right message at the right time. But here's the thing. Almost 20 years ago, 2004, 2005, my buddy and I, we had this idea where it was like, hey, you know how, and we were doing some real estate stuff or whatever. And, you know, you used to, actually, this was probably, you were like a toddler, but you used to drive around to houses, and there would actually be plastic tubes that had flyers in them. So you would get out, you would walk up to the real estate sign in front of the house, and you would take a flyer out. Well, half the time the tubes were empty. You know, I grew up in Houston, Texas, where it rained a lot. So half the time the flyers are all sopping wet and they fall apart in your hand. I'm like, this is craziness. What if you could just get real estate information on your phone? And so we created a whole system where you could send a code with a text message, and it would ping the MLS database, and it would send the property info to your phone. So me and my buddy, I was a pianist, he was a bartender. We invented this technology in like 2004. Well, now that's how all real estate works. Every residential real estate listing in the country has a text message code on it that you can get the information sent to your phone. So we had the right idea, but it was too early. It wasn't. We were going around trying to teach realtors how to use their flip phones to send codes, and they don't know how to work it. We were probably about 4 years too early. You know, that could have been the $100 million company. I've had other things that could have been the $100 million company. The point is, you keep trying. If you believe in yourself and you believe in your ideas, you keep trying. If you don't, you don't. And you end up with the life that most people have.
Amazing, man. You keep trying, right? And like to go back to that, what you said about the subconscious mind, like if you try something and you fail, then your subconscious mind tells you, man, don't try it again. Don't be stupid. You're gonna fail, right? So, man, I've started this gentleman thing 8 months ago, man. Yeah. 8 months ago. And I've been failing for, well, I like maybe 9 or maybe 10 months. And I've been failing for 8 months. I barely got my first clients a couple of months, like 1 month ago, right? And I was on a call with one of my coaches. Oh, and by the way, in the past 2 years, all of the money that I made with my previous business, I've invested in myself. Like I didn't worry about buying a car. I didn't worry about getting a nice house. I didn't worry about any of that. But I can proudly say that in the last 3 years, since all of that happened with my daughter and with me and all of that, I've invested over $200,000 in myself, man. Just nice. Like trying to like learn all the strategies and the tactics. And then I figured out that like, it's not the strategies and the tactics, but the belief, right? And then working on that and all of that, right? So I've invested all of that, and then I came into this modern gentleman thing, and I've been failing and failing and failing and failing and failing, man. Like no one believed I believed in myself, or I said I believed in myself. But like, you know, like at a subconscious level, I knew, right, that like I'm just a 21-year-old. How come I like you can feel it, right, on a call, on a sales call. You can be really good at sales because, you know, I've taken a lot of sales courses, and I would literally make men that were older than me and stuff break down and cry because they were trying to grow their businesses while sacrificing their time, their health, and their family. And like I showed them how I could help them, but like when it came to the end of giving me money, they wouldn't, right? And I could never close, and it was probably me holding myself back. But I was failing and failing and failing. So like you talked about like core values and stuff, right? Which I wanted to like ask. I know why I didn't give up, right? But like, what do you think like builds your resiliency, man? Like what has made you, you know, like keep on trying and keep on trying and keep on trying? So like I said, I was on this call with one of my coaches, and he said, man, how many people do you think would have tried for 8 months without like having any results, right? 8 months going at it and going hard at it without having any results. Actually, he's the coach of the mastermind that I just joined. And I ended up going into the mastermind for free, and I ended up making money because we're in the same business, right? We're in the same like industry. And I sold them, not just did I enter the mastermind for free, but I sold them my entire backend, because for the last 8 months, every time like that I failed and that I would get on like 5-10 calls, and I would, you know, like get depressed for like a week or two, I would default back to like creating stuff and working on my backend and stuff. So like I have this amazing backend that allowed me to get into this $30,000 mastermind, and allowed me to get paid because like they have, like this guy has the front end, he has the looks, he's you know, he has it all, he's jacked, he's mature, right? But he doesn't have the back end, and that's where I came in. So yeah, again, so like I'm just going all over the place, but basically he said, how many people do you think would have gone 8 months with no results and you know, refused to give up? And I was like, I don't know, man, like I don't know, no, but nobody, he said, right?
Yeah.
So what do you think?
Super rare.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's, and here's the thing. People like to think that they will be confident and they will take decisive action. And their condition is, as long as I can see the path, they're like, I'll work my butt off. And I hear this all the time because people are like, man, I'm a hard worker. You just show me exactly what to do. And show me where we're headed, and I'll work to get there. But the universe doesn't actually work like that. Opportunity, luck is when opportunity meets preparation. But you don't get to define the opportunity in advance of the preparation that's going to equate to your luck. You just got to start to prepare. And I'll give a perfect example. So when I was, and it's something that, again, and I have my reasons why, and my stories and my theories on why I am this way, but it's just how I am and how I've been since I was a kid. When I was in my mid-20s, I was a musician. I played piano. I dropped out of high school, but I still ended up getting into college on a music scholarship. And during college, I actually wrote a musical as part of a program at University of Houston. And I wrote all the music, and I had a writing partner. He wrote the book and lyrics, and we made a musical together, and we produced it as part of this workshop at the school. And it was a big hit. Everybody was like, this is so good for a student production. This is like amazing. You guys should actually go try to do something with this. So we started applying to musical theater festivals all over the country, and just theater festivals in general. We applied to 100, got denied by every single one. And it was like literally number 100. It was like number 103 or something. Actually got, so, and this was like the early mid 2000s, when you couldn't just email them a Google Drive folder with all the files in it. You had to, like, we were like burning CDs on my computer, and I had like a kit where I would like stamp the label on the CD, and we would have to go to Kinko's, which is now FedEx Office, and like print out copies of the script and put these packets together. And we did that 103 times before we finally got accepted. So we get accepted to this festival in Minnesota. We live in Texas. So now I got to put 10 actors together, figure out how to get them to Minnesota. I'm a poor musician. He's a poor doctoral student. So somehow we come up with 10 grand to like pay these actors a few bucks and get them to Minnesota. And then we have like 2 months to rehearse. And then with like a few weeks left, one of the male leads drops out. He just disappears and stops coming to rehearsal. So it's too late to hire another actor. So what are we going to do? Well, the show must go on, right? So I'm like, okay, I'll do it. I have to learn to sing. I have to learn to act. I have to learn to dance. I hire my buddy to come in and play the piano. And so I do crash course. I start taking one of the other actors. I'm like, dude, I'll pay you extra. Will you just teach me how to act? So in 3 weeks, I became an actor and a dancer and a better singer. And I learned all the words and I acted in my own show. And we ended up going up to this festival in Minnesota. And we had a 2-week engagement, 8 shows a week. So it was like a show. What was it? It was Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, 2 shows on Saturday, 2 shows on Sunday, and off on Monday. I think that was the schedule for 2 weeks, right? 16 shows in 2 weeks. We never played for an audience of more than 12 people. And usually there was like 1 person or 3 people in the audience because it was this big festival with like hundreds of shows and people would just kind of wander in. And so now, I mean, the whole thing just felt like an absolute shit show, right? Like nothing is going right about any of this, but I don't care. Every single show, I am going out there and I am busting my ass and I am acting like I've been doing it for years. And I am just so happy and so all in. And one show, one guy happens to be in the audience out of about 5 people who was actually the inventor of the Breathe Right strip, those strips that go on your nose, right? Mm-hmm. So this guy's like a multi-gazillionaire arts patron up in Minnesota. And he comes backstage after the show and he's like talking to me and he's like, so what's the deal here? Like, that was really funny and really good, but like, who are you? And anyway, I ended up telling him the whole story about what it took to get there and how the actor dropped out. And I'm like, I'm not even an actor, man. I just wanted to see the show survive. And he was so impressed with the story that he ended up backing the show and helping us produce it professionally. And then he ended up backing me on multiple other businesses. And it wasn't because I was the greatest actor in the world. I wasn't even an actor. It's because he respected the grit. And that's what you're talking about. Your buddies, like how many people would have done what you did for 8 months? Man, when you get around successful people and they get a whiff that you have that it factor, that you have that gear that most people don't have, it doesn't even really matter what you know how to do. They'll invest in you because of your intangibles and they'll backfill all the skills and the resources, right? And and that's what people have to cultivate is just that grit gear. And it's in really short supply in a world that says you can't do it yourself. You don't have what it takes. And your only chance is to hitch your wagon to the system and go to school and get a diploma and get a job and pay into your 401k and hang on till you're 65. And hopefully you get a happy ending because that's your only shot. Because if you try to do it yourself, you're screwed. But what the really rich and successful people out there are looking for are the people that are better than that offer, like you and me, to be honest.
Awesome, man. So going back to the thing that you said right now, which like people are willing to work their butt off if they like can see, you know, like the light at the end of the tunnel. You know, I actually heard this in your podcast and I want to share it, right? There's this experiment that they did with rats, right? Yeah, in which they put the rat in a container with water. And like the first rat that they did that with, literally like the rat just died and drowned after like a minute or 2, 3 minutes, 5 minutes at most, right? Right. But then they did that a second time and they actually rescued the rat before it drowned. And then they put it back in, and then now the rat, I don't know, man, you can tell it better. Can you? Yeah.
So there was an experiment. Yeah, they did with rats, and it was all about willpower. And so they put a rat in a tube of water that's got smooth sides so the rat can't get out. And yeah, after like 5 or 6, I think it was like 6 minutes, the rat just gives up. It's like, I can't get out. I'm going to drown. I might as well just quit fighting. Right. And so then they put another rat in, and sure enough, 5 or 6 minutes, the rat's like, nah, I give up. I'm going to drown. But they reach in and they pull the rat out and they rescue it. Then they put it back in. So now the rat has it in its head. If I keep swimming, eventually I'll get rescued, right? Well, so how long can a rat swim if it actually believes that it'll get rescued eventually?
If it actually believes, how long, man? Tell us.
40 hours. 40 hours instead of 6 minutes. That's the power of belief.
And we as humans have the power to make that, to consciously make that belief, like
what would we be willing to do if we believed that if we kept grinding long enough, eventually our business idea would catch, our independence would get traction, our ability to survive outside of a system that ensnares us and makes us dependent? If we believed that eventually we would get it to work, how hard would we push to make it work? And on the flip side, how easily do we throw in the towel or not even try in the first place because we've been told that it won't work anyway?
Exactly, man. And yeah. And now back to another thing that you said, that you've always been like that, right? Since you were little. I've always been like the way I am, man. I've actually been counting my calories since I was in 5th grade, man. Imagine a 5th grader counting his calories because he wants to be better, or
yeah.
like I grew up with this like insecurity, with this like I didn't fit in. I grew up with like I would fit in with everyone, with every little clique at school, with even like the smart kids, with the troublemakers, with the drug addicts, with even the homosexuals, right? I would hang out with everyone, but at the end of the day, I ended up alone, man. Like I didn't quite fit in with anyone. I could hang out with everyone, but like then at the end of the day, I was end up alone, and I always had this like insecurity, like this. I don't remember the word. I don't remember the word. I do have it here, but I don't remember it. But I always like I'm not enough. Like I'm not enough. I'm gonna count my calories. I'm not enough. I'm going to like run. But I've always tried to like be better and be the best and try really hard. So I've always been like this, man. And I actually read Gary V's book, and he says that it's in your genes, right? And a lot of people like are simply not gonna make it because it's not in their genes. But I don't like that idea, man. What do you think about that?
Well, the idea that some people it's just not in their DNA to be successful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't agree with that. I think that, well, I mean, it depends. When we talk like at a very technical, like medical level, biological level, when we talk about what's in your DNA, I actually do very much believe in epigenetics. I mean, epigenetics is a very legitimate science that says that your experience and even your multi-generational historical experience creates what's called the epigenetic overlay that actually switches on and switches off DNA. So that I do think that you can inherit a history of dysfunction, a history of lethargy, a history of dependency, a history of, and some of it can be passed down epigenetically, and some of it can be created in your own life epigenetically, where trauma and experiences, especially early experiences, can literally disable the genes that need to activate for you to go out and crush it in this world. I think that's legitimate, but I think that it is, I think the greatest trick that the devil pulls is to cloud what's fundamentally a very binary thing, which is in many ways, we're all the same. And in some ways, none of us are like anybody else. And that's it. There's ways in which we're all the same, which is most ways. And there's a few ways in which Alex isn't Jeff and Jeff isn't Alex, and never the two shall meet, right? But what the psychological trap is that we become really emotional and really illogical about wanting, we sort of just arbitrarily decide, when am I individual and when am I like everyone else? And well, I believe that success, the potential for success, the wiring for abundance and prosperity is a commonality that is shared across the entire human species. I believe that. I don't agree with Gary Vee that there's anybody in this world who doesn't have a wiring to create value and innovate in the world. And here's why I say, and I mean, even people that have significant challenges and handicaps. And here's why is if you look at like a chemistry equation, right? Like everything is physics and chemistry, right? Like we're all just energy. My energy, you know, I have all this energy that's like harnessed in the atom, trillions of molecules and atoms in my body. And energy is just basically everything is just particles and fields. And my particles and fields are commingling with all the other particles and fields in the universe. So either we say, okay, that's all it is, or there is something uniquely human and spiritual, and people have discrete meaning and value in the world. And if they don't, and all it is physics, then okay, what's the point of any of it, right? So I think most people fundamentally agree that just like everybody has a fingerprint, everybody has like some unique value or quality in the world. Everybody has a unique energetic signature. And if everybody has a unique energetic signature, in other words, if my atoms and molecules have some sort of ethereal qualitative value about them that differentiates them as in their Jeffness, right? There's no way you can introduce a unique variable into an energetic or chemical equation without changing the result of the equation or the process. So if you have a process of energy and or chemistry, and you inject a unique variable into that process, it's going to create a unique result every time, 100% of the time. It's just a basic law of science. So if there is some unique, ineffable quality of Jeffness that all my energy and chemistry are bound up inside of, there's no way that I can come into contact with the world without producing a unique result that could not have existed without me prompting it in the first place. It's not scientifically possible. So the idea that any of us are somehow prohibited from going out and doing incredible and unique things, I think is just scientifically flawed.
Your X factor.
Yeah, we all have it. And if we don't have it, then what the hell are we doing anyway? Like it's pretty, who was it?
Elon Musk.
I'm gonna look it up. There was a philosopher, and I don't remember who it was, and I'm gonna look it up and see who it was. He said, ultimately, the only true philosophical question is suicide. It's actually the only philosophical question, because either we accept the ridiculousness of life and the universe and we accept it, or we don't and we depart it. But if we accept it, if we accept the universe and all of its absurdity, then there's no quibbling about it. There's no complaining about it. There's no, you either accept it or you don't. If you don't accept it, you commit suicide. And if you do accept it, you don't. He's like, it was this, I'm going to look it up. But I think in that same way, like if we accept that there's more to us than just energy and chemistry, then we can't accept that without also accepting the immense possibility of what our life means in the world and what's possible for us.
Yeah, that everything you said, man, was amazing. But like, I think that in order for people to like your level of awareness of the world is just like very, very high. Like I can feel it, man. How come? Like how?
It was Camus. One of the existential. Wow. Anyway, Albert Camus. I don't know if anybody's read The Plague or any of his books, but yeah, Camus is the one that said that. Sorry, go ahead. What was your question?
So yeah, no, I was just saying that like your level of awareness of the world and life is just like at a very high level, and like the things that you say might not, like I get it, and I'm like, it's very valuable what you're saying, but like, yeah, my question is, how have you come to have this level of awareness, man, of the world and of life and of like who you are?
Well, Eleanor Roosevelt said, small minds talk about people, average minds talk about events, and great minds talk about ideas. And what do most people talk about? People. They do. And if they're not talking about people, they're usually talking about events. And so that's anything that says, oh, small minds, average minds, great minds might sound like it's very judgmental or disempowering, like, oh, well, you know, she's just being arrogant and saying I'm small-minded. No, it's the inverse. She's saying you get to choose what kind of mind you cultivate for yourself by what you put your attention on. If you're going to put your attention on other people, which, by the way, is all social media is putting your attention on other people, you are willingly choosing to be small-minded. Now, if you want to elevate a little bit, at least talk about events, at least talk about things that have like a macro impact, blah, blah, blah. Maybe watch the news and have some opinions about it that you can regurgitate or something. At least now you have an average mind. But you can choose to have a great mind by getting obsessed with ideas. I've always been really obsessed with ideas. I have my origin stories about why I think I am this way. And I'm not so sure that they really matter, except that I will share this. I was bullied really badly as a kid. I grew up with a genetic disorder called Wardenberg Syndrome that always made me feel, basically, I was kind of a funny looking kid. You know, I kind of looked like a little, like people actually thought I was mentally retarded. They would say like, oh, he's the retarded kid. Like I remember being at basketball camp and like literally they would chant like retard, retard when I would go on the court and stuff. I mean, and I was a really smart kid, but I had like a little bit of a facial look from this syndrome. And so I grew up like, I'm like, man, I don't belong to with these people. And I don't know that I really want to. Because they're small. I mean, even as a kid, I was like, I could see it. I could feel it. I'm like, this is it's almost like my own species is just like by default, they're small-minded unless they intentionally focus their energy on things that can transcend their own nature. And I was forced to transcend because if I was going to be like all of the rest of them, I was going to have to be ashamed of myself my whole life. Because I'm like, okay, I don't fit in with them. They judge me. They make me feel bad. They insult me. They tease me. So if I'm going to try to fit in with them, it means that I'm going to have to turn against myself because they're all turned against me. Mm-hmm. So how about if I just say, you know what, screw it. I'm going to transcend all this. I'm going to become a creature of ideas. I'm going to lose myself in story. I'm going to lose myself in fantasy. I'm going to figure out what's the deeper meaning of this. Ultimately, in order to forgive and to love and be a functioning, decent person in this world, I'm going to have to understand what's the real driver behind human behavior. Because otherwise, what would have happened if I hadn't done that? You know who else got bullied a lot as a kid?
Who?
Hitler. That's what happens when you never actually get past your anger and your fear and your rejection. You go in a dark direction. And the only way for me to save myself was to transcend the banality of human, socialization and actually try to understand what makes people tick. Why are they like this? Forgive them, for they know not what they do, right? I had to figure out the causality, or else I was just going to be, sort of hopelessly relegated to the heap of being like everyone else, but they didn't want me. And so I think that's where it came from, but I don't think that makes me unique or special. I mean, having told this story now many times and talked to lots of people and shared in intimate settings, everybody that I talk to will come up to me and secretly say, yeah, I feel like a reject too. I feel like an alien. I feel like a foreigner. I feel like I don't fit in. I feel like I don't know how to integrate. We're all, and again, that's this ineffable usness that we all feel, but somehow we were made ashamed of, most of us, because when you're young, it is all about fitting in, right? Mm-hmm. Until you can't. The greatest gift I was ever given was to have enough of a handicap, and I call it a handicap, a social handicap, because I looked a little different, that it was absolutely pointless for me to try to fit in. And the liberation was when I stopped trying.
Cool. I stopped trying. Yeah, I stopped trying.
Yeah, you're a freaking weirdo, dude. I mean, what are you doing? You're not doing what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to be on drugs. You're supposed to be perpetuating this generational cycle, right? Like, who are you? What are you being all uppity and trying to do better with yourself, right?
Yeah, exactly, man. Yeah. And so, you know, I was going around as a teenager trying to fit in with everyone and I couldn't. Right. But like, how come the people that do fit in, how come they do fit in? Like, is it because like they try harder to fit in or?
Because I mean, I think that people fitting in is just a function of fear. It's a function of, you know, look, we're all the conscious mind processes. I quote these stats all the time. I should know them. The conscious mind processes, I want to say 1,000 bits per second or 100 bits per second of information. And the subconscious mind, whatever the math is, the subconscious mind processes 400,000 times more information than the conscious mind. Mm-hmm. Like the analogy that I've used that it's been described is to take like, you know, little race, like jockeys from horse racing, they weigh like 85 pounds, like these little dudes, right? Put one of them on top of an African elephant and have the little jockey up there, like trying to whip the elephant and get the elephant to, that's our conscious mind on top of our subconscious mind, thinking that it's actually in control. It's like a little 80-pound jockey on top of an elephant. Our subconscious mind is in control, and everybody's subconscious mind. This is why we're all so similar. This is why I say it's pretty binary. And for most of us, we're just like everybody else. And that's why I look at life as like, well, what choice did people actually think they had? Because if I was them with their same set of experiences, can I really say I would have done or been any different? Probably not. But what the subconscious mind essentially operates around keeping us alive. There's a basic, you know, structure in the brain. That's the limbic brain. And so we have this, you know, we take in sensory data, we paint it onto the world around us through consciousness. We run it through the thalamus is like the routing system. And then it goes to the hippocampus and it says, hey, do we have any emotionally charged memories that we can relate to what our sensory data is feeding us? And if we do, we say, okay, well, what's the emotional experience that we've had in the past that this is reminding us of? And depending on what the hippocampus tells us, it'll tell the amygdala, make you scared so that you'll fight or flight, you'll release adrenaline, your sympathetic nervous system will tell you what to do. Like it's so ridiculous to think that any of us are any different in this regard, right? Mm-hmm. And so given that that's how all of us are operating all the time, I don't remember. What was your original question? I went on my neurology rant and I forgot the original question.
It was cool. It was cool. So the original question was, I mean, it probably does not have anything to do, but like what you're saying is golden. Was that how come people, the people that do try to fit in.
Yeah. So given that we're all generally operating from this fear elephant almost all the time, well, there's safety in numbers and there's safety in tribal cooperation, right? For most of human history, your best bet was to fit in. Mm-hmm. That you didn't pass out of the tribe. You didn't have to face the saber-toothed tiger by yourself, alone in the jungle. Safety happened through cooperation, right? And so still now we're in this world where we're surrounded with all these opportunities, all these possibilities, all these tools. We've evolved a theory of psychology and personality where we know that the highest level of living is self-actualization, right? Like that's the top of Maslow's pyramid. We know that we can be our happiest if we will actualize ourselves, which means leaning into our strengths, leaning into our differences, and ditching the notion of fitting in and being like everybody else. But we still have this base of fear saying, no. Remember, for most of evolutionary history, that is dangerous. Mm-hmm. So the people that fit in are the people that are scared. That's my belief.
Cool, man. So, and like you mentioned on this, you touched on this a little bit, but like the mind is this like inventory of pictures, right? So we're here in the present, and then we have an inventory of pictures of the past, and then we have, and then some of that pictures have, like you said, negative energy, right? These pictures, and then now the mind looks into the future and thinks that these negative pictures are going to repeat. So now you operate from fear and doubt because you think that the same things that happened that caused you to have a negative energy with those negative pictures are going to happen. Do you know of any way to like control this or get rid of this or be proactive towards this instead of like just reacting to where your mind is telling you to do?
Yeah, I think that there are a couple things, and I mean, there's a lot. Like if you research like cognitive biases, you'll find lists of all the different types of biases that, based on the way humans distort picture. I mean, there's framing bias and there's anchoring bias and there's confirmation bias and all, but it just getting past all this sort of abstract theory and being really, really pragmatic. I think there are basically three things. There's basically three things we can do to start to get ahead of our natural subconscious response that makes us feel like it's more important to fit in than stand out. One of them is you can change the people that you're around. There are people, because we are resonant beings. In that sense, we're all just antenna, like pinging signals back and forth off each other, right? Mm-hmm. You get in a room with 10 people who believe it's better to stand out than fit in, it'll change you. It'll change you. You will start to build that muscle. You will start, it's contagious. You'll start to see how fulfilled and how dynamic people are that aren't trying to fit in anymore. And honestly, if you're still stuck in trying to fit in, you'll start to get a little jealous. So that's one thing you can do, is change who you're around. I think another thing you can do is, as you alluded to, the subconscious mind thinks in terms of pictures. So I think there is a huge power in creating both internal and external imagery to create new pictures in our mind. And that can literally be as powerful, as much as like, looking through magazines and really, creating a vision board and putting pictures of things we want and stuff. And then also creating internal visualizations and running through narratives in our mind of seeing ourselves in our greatness, doing the things that we're capable of. And ultimately it's just a preponderance of imagery. Your subconscious right now has a million, think about your computer, right? Your computer has every JPEG you've ever opened is stored on your computer somewhere, right? Mm-hmm. Well, in your mind, every image you've ever seen and every sensory experience you've ever had is stored. You got 8 million JPEGs in your brain and MP3s of audio and, whatever the file type would be for smells and feelings, it's all stored in your brain. And there's a preponderance of data effectively that says, okay, I need to start stuffing new types of data into my brain. I need to fill up my hard drive with new files so that eventually it gets to where when I go to automatic recall and I pull an image file out that's relevant based on some input that came in, I'm now accessing a positive image. But if you think about most people's lives, we have had so damn many negative images and files stuffed into our brain over the course of a life that it takes a lot of work. You don't just read Awaken the Giant Within one time and now suddenly you're fixed. You got to commit years to this stuff, thousands of hours of trying to offset the tens of thousands of hours that it took to get you so screwed up in the first place. Right? So I think that's the thing. Change the people you're around, changing the files, swapping out files that are in your head. And then the third thing is just creating little micro habits that you can build on. Mm-hmm. I'm just a huge fan of starting small and focusing on consistency. When I started 3 years ago, this business, all I was trying to do was put out one video every day. And a video, okay, a 5-minute video might take me 30 minutes or an hour. Sometimes, how it goes when you start out, maybe you fumble 100 times. But, yeah. I was like, if I can just get one video out a day, that's something I know I can build on. And I'll also be doing way more than most people.
And you start identifying yourself with those small wins. And then as time goes on and you stack wins upon each other, all of a sudden you become a winner and you identify yourself as a winner and you win. And it's just a positive feedback loop.
Exactly. Yeah. So those are the three things: change the people you're around, swap out the files in your head, and build micro habits that you can follow through on consistently.
And if you're watching on YouTube, right, for the second one, to swap out the files in your head, this is what I've been doing, man, for the last 3 years. So here is my story, right? I was a kid abandoned by my dad. I did drugs when 12 years old. That was me, being 12 years old and just reminding me how I looked. At 14 was when I connected with my dad. There's my smart watches that I used to sell that I got from China. There's my car, the first car that I sold. right? And just telling myself this story, that then my daughter happened, and then like that event happened, and then I started my insurance business, I started my digital marketing business, and then all the way up till now, right? And then this is my future. And then I've been telling myself the story of how my future is going to be looking like. And Jeff, it's happening in front of my eyes, man.
Yeah.
It's happening in front of my eyes, man. Like it's happening. It's so exciting. It's so exciting. Okay. Man, the last thing that I want to ask you, and I do end every meeting, I mean, every podcast, I end them with 5 questions. But the last thing that I wanted to ask you is about an equation that I just learned. I just learned an equation, and it's R times E times M equals value. Revenue times EBITDA, I think it is. Yeah.
EBITDA.
Yeah. EBITDA times multiple equals value, right? And when I first learned this equation, I thought about you. I thought about you because it was like revenue, right, times your margins. Let's say that, well, whatever. Revenue times your margins times your multiple equals your value. But then, like the variable that has the biggest impact on your value is your multiple, right? And the multiple, one of the ways that you can impact the multiple the most is by adding technology, by adding like proprietary, like technological things, right? Automation and stuff. And when I went through your courses and through your stuff, man, like everything is like customized to you, right? Your follow-ups, like just crazy. And I just thought about the multiple, right? The multiple that you have. And like my question is, are you trying to like exit sometime, like your company and like sell it for like, because I bet like if you have $100 million in revenue, I don't know what your EBITDA is, but I bet like your multiple is high, is really, really high. So your company is probably worth more than $1 billion already, is it?
I don't think our valuation would be that high now. I think that we definitely have the possibility to build $1 billion business over time. And I think about it in those terms, but I don't really think about it. I mean, here's what and I'm 42. It's taken me a while to learn. Like this is the kind of thing it's easy to say, but it's hard to live. Mm-hmm. And it's taken me a long time to get to where I can say this and I can actually live it out every day, is that I'm not so worried right now about whether or not I'm going to sell my company or I'm going to find a private equity company that wants to invest, or I'm going to IPO or, go public, or I'm not as worried about that. What I'm worried about is if I crack the code on how to deliver the type of educational and quality of life outcomes that I want for people at large scale. When I'm delivering that, that's when I have $1 billion company. And that's when I can do whatever I want. If I want to go direct list on NASDAQ, I can. If I want to sell to Blackstone, I can't. Like it'll happen, because here's the thing. You look at the entire educational system right now and say, like, ENTRE's mission statement is to develop the best entrepreneurs, to develop the world's best entrepreneurs with personalized education, tools, and experiences that drive results in every area of life. Is there an institution in the world right now that produces world-class entrepreneurs, that puts everything they need together inside of one ecosystem, which is educational curriculum, its tools, which are both technological tools and also intellectual property tools like operational systems and frameworks, its software, its experiences to create real transformation and real personal growth, to mature people into the kind of person that are capable of taking the risk and taking the action to become successful entrepreneurs. Like, is there any educational institution in the world that actually does all that and produces people to get results in every area of life, physically, personally, and professionally?
Well,
there's not.
I hope to be. There's not. Right?
I mean, if you really think about the full stack of what I just said, it doesn't exist. I mean, you could say, like, I know I was talking to a guy, I think it was last week or maybe earlier this week, I don't remember, who I've actually been nominated for an award in education. And he was basically saying, you boil all the water out of the pan in the United States, there's really only one school that teaches entrepreneurship in a way that produces real badass entrepreneurs on a consistent basis. And that's Stanford University, because they bring in like, they have people like Elon Musk and, like the really great Silicon Valley entrepreneurs that surround Palo Alto. They actually have those people teaching in that program, producing real world entrepreneurs. But does Stanford produce people that come out with physical and personal success too? That they're also great husbands, great fathers, great leaders, they take great care of their bodies. They're in energetic and physical alignment. Like that's not even in Stanford's purview to teach that. There is not one company in the world that produces entrepreneurial outcomes at scale of high quality people with high quality, balanced lives of balanced excellence, physically, personally, and professionally, that are actually calibrated to go get the results and have all the tools and personal development that they needed to be successful. I mean, it doesn't exist. And that's what I'm building. So like, I don't need to worry about what my end game is. I just need to make sure that I build that.
Yeah. You don't even have competition.
And if and if we really take care of people the right way, and we'll just be a category of one, and I can see it happening. Like, I'm not cocky. I'm not taking anything for granted. There is still so much work to be done. But you ask, like, how did we grow so fast? When you get obsessed with a vision that makes that's so big, and it makes people's lives better, how can you lose? The only way you can lose is to play too small.
Exactly, man. So Jeff, I already know where to like get a hold of you, but is there anything that you like? I'm sure that everyone, like every one of my audience that watches this is probably going to be like mind blowing by everything that you said. So they're probably going to know more about you. So man, is there anywhere that you would like for people to go if they want to know more about you?
Yeah, I appreciate that. So I would say, honestly, just go subscribe to my YouTube channel. I mean, I have products and I have courses and there's a lot I could invite people to do, but I just want people so go subscribe to my YouTube channel, go on YouTube and type in Jeff Lerner, subscribe to my YouTube channel, and on one condition: for the next 30 days, for every hour of streaming television or scrolling social media that you do, commit to watching 1 hour of my videos. In fact, and if you're not going to do it, don't even subscribe. Just keep scrolling Instagram. But if somebody's listening and they're like, I really want to see what this is all about, and I really want to change my life, go subscribe to my YouTube on the condition that for the next 30 days, you'll equal whatever your consumption of mainstream media is. You'll equal with your consumption of my videos.
And I can attest that it is life-changing, and that your podcast is probably worth more than a Harvard business degree, man. So
I appreciate that.
Awesome. So Jeff, man, we've come to the end. It was a pleasure having you, man. I was really excited. I'm really proud of myself. I'm proud of you, right? And thankful and really grateful for having you, man. So thank you very much for being here.
Dude, this has been so much fun. Thank you. And congrats on all your success and everything you're doing, man. Keep at it.
Awesome, brother. Well, I'll see you later, man. Thank you for watching the Gentleman Success, Happiness, and Fulfillment Talk podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, share it with one friend, leave us a comment, and let us know. 99% of people never leave a review or comment, but we love and are very thankful with the 1% of you who do. If there's something or someone you want to see on this podcast, send me a message on Instagram at Alex_Ramirez1020 and let me know. As a thank you for that, I have an amazing surprise for each and every one of you who does take the time to leave us a comment or review on YouTube or one of the major podcasting platforms